This video is going to go over a review over factoring. So with factoring, we always want to make sure that our quadratic is in standard form. Now remember, standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are numbers. Now you always check for a greatest common factor. Greatest common factor. You always check for that at the very beginning. If you cannot factor anything out but the number 1, then there isn't really a greatest common factor we can take out. But if you see that everything is divisible by 2, then you have to take out that greatest common factor. So, looking at the first example, we have 3x squared minus 15x plus 18. The first thing I'm going to check for is a greatest common factor. But before I do that, I'm going to need to check for standard form. And it is in standard form. It has the x squared first, then the x, then the number. So we're good here. But I do notice that there is a greatest common factor. If I look at all 3 terms, they're all divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. Now, can I take out an x? No, because this last term doesn't have an x, so I cannot take that out as my GCF. So remember, your GCF goes on the outside of your parentheses, and then you divide. 3 divided by 3 is going to be 1x squared. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5x. And 18 divided by 3 is positive, wow, I'm having a brain fart, positive 6. Okay, so now this is my quadratic. Now, do I have to write the 1 in front of the x squared? No, but if it helps you, you can keep it there. Now, I'm going to keep this GCF at the front as an important reminder at the very end so I don't forget about it. But for now, I'm going to leave it alone. From here, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the AC method. The AC method is where we have AC on top and B on the bottom, because B stands for bottom. Now, if you don't remember how to do this, including this video, I've also included some resources on Canvas, right? So we have a visual step-by-step example where I go over how to factor, and it's a separate example from the one I'm showing you in the video, and there's even a slideshow that helps you go through that. Now, I'm aware that some of you do not have a calculator at home, so I have figured out a way for you to figure out the sides here without using the graphing calculator. Okay, so AC goes on top. Well, first we need to identify A, B, and C. A is 1, right? 1 is technically our A here. Remember that 3 is not the A, that's the GCF, so we're leaving it alone. B is negative 5, and C is positive 6. A times C, which is going to be 1 times 6. Oops, I'm so sorry, forgot to silence my phone, is going to be 6. And then our B is negative 5. So I need 2 numbers that make the product of 6, but add up to the sum of negative 5. If you go back to the visual example step by step, I also include a link to an AC method calculator. So if you click on that link, or you can actually type it into Safari or Google Chrome, whatever you have, you can click on that link and it takes you to this calculator here. Now the product is the number I want it to multiply to. So I need 2 numbers that multiply to positive 6. So I want 2 numbers that multiply to positive 6, but I want it to add to negative 5. So think about you're putting 6 in the top section and negative 5 in the bottom section. So just exactly how you have it written. So you're telling your calculator, I want 2 numbers that multiply to 6 to make the product of 6, but have the sum of negative 5. And then I'm going to hit submit. Now when I do this, it's going to give me 2 sets of answers. It's going to give me negative 3 and negative 2, or negative 2 and negative 3. Notice they're the exact same numbers, so it doesn't really matter the order that you write this in at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick the first one, negative 3, negative 2. So negative 3 and negative 2 are my special numbers that go on the sides here. Now, remember from factoring that the first term stays the same and the last term stays the same, but the middle term gets split into negative 3x and negative 2x. Remember, these are where those numbers come into play. And now I can factor by grouping, which is when I have 4 terms. I'm going to go ahead and move this below so I have some more room. Okay, factor by grouping, I'm going to split it into 2 groups, like that. And then I do the GCF of each group. The GCF of the first group is going to be 1, because I can't take out a number bigger than 1, and only 1x can come out. So on the outside, I'm going to have 1x, and you don't have to write the 1. Now, a 1 divided by 1 cancels, right? This cancels, but the x's. I have 2 x's in the top, and I take away 1, so I have 1 x left. Negative 3 divided by 1 is still negative 3, but these x's cancel. If I have an x and I take away an x, there's no x's left over. Moving on, Now, between these two numbers, the largest number that goes into both is going to be 2. But because the first term of the group is negative, I have to take out a negative number. So it's going to be negative 2 on the outside, and I can't take out any x's. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is just 1, right? And so you have the x left over. You don't have to write the 1. I'm going to get rid of that. 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. When you get to this step, you want to make sure that your parentheses match each other, and they do. And they should always match each other without you having to force them to match. So once we have them matching, we know that we did that step correct. So then you're going to put your 2 GCFs in one set of parentheses. And then you're going to, I got to find a different color. You're going to put the matching set next to it. So you have x minus 3. Now, typically, when we get to this step, we're done. However, because this problem had a GCF of 3, we're not quite done yet. We want to make sure we tack on that 3 to the outside of our 2 sets of parentheses. And this would be our final factored answer. Now, the next example, I'm going to go through a lot quicker. Now, you might have noticed that this only has 2 terms. Well, to do the AC method, I have to have 3 terms. So obviously, this is missing a term, right? Now, I know that standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So which term is this missing? Is it missing the a, the b, or the c? Well, the a is there because the x squared term is there. And this is just a number only. So that's typically our c. C is the one that's just a number. We're missing the one that has only an x. So if it's not there, then what number is that? That's a 0, right? Plus 0x. Now, if you want to write minus 0x, you can, but it's the same thing, right? Plus 0 minus 0, same thing. So the 0x wasn't there, but we can write it there to help us out. So now that we have 3 terms, you can do the AC method. I know that there is no GCF. There's no number that's going to divide out of everything. So I have AC here, B at the bottom. A is 25, B is 0, and C is negative 4. A times C is going to be 25 times negative 4, which is negative 100, and B is going to be 0. So if I go to my product sum calculator again, I want it to have a product of 100, but add to 0. Was it 100 or negative 100, I'm sorry. Negative 100, but add to 0. Okay, type that in. I get negative 10 and positive 10. So those are going to be my 2 special numbers, negative 10 and positive 10. And again, it doesn't matter the order that you put these in. So the first term stays the same, and the last term stay the same, but this is going to split. And you have negative 10x and plus 10x. And then you factor by grouping. GCF of the first 2 terms here is going to be 5x. That 5 is the largest number I can take out of both. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and I have an x left over. Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. Make sure we're dividing here, and these x's cancel. The next thing I have here is my GCF of 2. Now this is, I'm going to take out a positive 2 because the first term is positive. I don't need to take out a negative. So it's going to be positive 2, and I can't take out any x's. 10 divided by 2 is 5. X stays, and the negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. You check for matching parentheses. We have that, so we're good. We put our GCFs together in one set of parentheses, and the other set that is matching right next to it. And this is our final answer because we did not have a GCF. Remember, the 3 on the outside here came because we had a GCF. But that is it for a factoring review. It is very crucial that you know how to factor because when we start solving quadratics by factoring, it is super essential.